Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to my monthly vlog for the month of November 2025. Yes, it's almost that time, heading up to, the C word. Christmas is almost upon us, and over the next couple of days I'll be starting to launch Christmas here on West Country Wanderings. It's not a Christmas video though today. It's the regular monthly vlog where I come to a new location. It's somewhere in the wider West Country region, and I tell you the very best of the comments, what's been happening on the channel, read those comments out that you put on the channel, and also tell you something about where we are. So where are we today? Well, we're in the beautiful village of Aldbourne, which sits on the road between the Swindon. Somebody asked me the other day, Swindon in Wiltshire. Well, it is and it isn't. It's in its own place now because it's a unitary authority. Swindon's about 8 miles to the northwest of this village here, Aldbourne, which sits on the North Wessex Down in a vale here. Beautiful location. And on the other side, you've got the town of Hungerford, which is just outside my area that I cover in the county of Berkshire. But it's a lovely place if you want to have a look at Hungerford. Real interest, of course, to do with the channel because it sits right on the Kennet and Avon Canal and, of course, on the River Kennet. So here, in between both, about halfway between Hungerford and Swindon here. So it took me about an hour to get here from where I live, near the town of Stroud in Gloucestershire. It's a beautiful, beautiful village. It's actually quite a large village. Now, it's interesting about the population here, because at one time in the middle of the 1800s, around 1814, 1850, so getting on for 200 years ago, the population was around about 1,600. And that is more or less what the population is today, probably around about 1,700, 1,800. It declined towards the end of the 19th century, and it's come up over the past 40, 50 years. I guess as people use this as a commuter village now to both Swindon and places like Oxford and going in towards Newbury, I guess. So yeah, because it's fairly close to all those and not that far from the M4 as well. But it is really rural around it though, so you've got lots of stunning countryside. So I'll tell you a little bit about this village, and as I say, we'll have a recap of the month of November here on West Country Wandering. So grab a cup of tea and a biscuit and settle back, and I'll tell you some more about this village. How did Aldbourne get its name? Well, it comes from the Old English Aldbourne, meaning the old stream of Ealda. Presumably Ealda was a person in Old English times and medieval times. Don't really know, there's no record of who that person was, but that's where present name Aldbourne's been corrupted over the years to get the present name Aldbourne. Now, it was made up of a huge estate from Aldbourne Manor. The actual building is about their 16th century building. I'm not sure if I can film a bit of it, but if I'll get a stock photo of it if I can't otherwise. And it was a huge estate all around here for the population built up. And that was broken up in the 17th century, so it became fragmented. After those times, population then declined, and then it built up again towards the earlier part of the 19th century. So yeah, it's really interesting in terms of how the population flowed. A lot of the buildings are made up of flint stone, and a lot of the cottages are thatched as well, so it makes it a really, really attractive place. Now, I'm off a place called Crook Square, and behind that is another place called The Square. And you have a couple of pubs here. At Crook Square, you've got the Blue Boar. So yeah, you've got that pub there. And there is another pub off the square. It's a little bit noisy to film there because you have the road that runs past it. So I've dropped a little bit back away from the main road here in Aldbourne. But it's, yeah, stunning place to wander around. If you're a regular viewer here on the channel West Country Wanderings, you'll know that I occasionally do collabs with other YouTubers. Last month in October, I did a video in the town of Shrewsbury, just to the north of the area I normally cover, with a couple of other collaborators there. This month, however, I started the month off in the town of Sherborne in Dorset, a beautiful, beautiful town there. And I did a video there with Louise, who runs a YouTube channel called Southwest Sundays. Incidentally, if you're not aware, she's still running the channel. She's doing less videos at the moment, although she did publish a really good one on Sunday from the Devon town of Tiverton. But she has another hat on now because she works voluntarily for a radio station called Apple FM, and they're based in the county town of Taunton. So we met up there in Sherborne after a coffee. We had a nice wander around the town. We had a guided tour of the amazing Sherborne Abbey, which was really, really fascinating. And I had a great comment on that video from Michael Pilling from Poland, who writes, "I think Sherborne is one of my favourite places to visit. All of the Ham stone buildings, abbey and the two castles. A town packed with independent shops, antique centres, parks and gardens. You'd have to travel to find a better town." Well, I couldn't agree more with that there, Michael. Absolutely great comment to that. We both had a very, very enjoyable day there in the town of Sherborne, and I can highly recommend a visit if you've never ever been there. And it is on the main railway line between Exeter and London Waterloo as well, so it's quite easy to get to via train. I came in via Salisbury and got on the train there. So yeah, it's a really, really lovely place, and I'd like to thank Louise for her input into that video as well. And she's done a video on her own channel at her day there in Sherborne. Now, what happened next? My Lost Railway Walk series is one of the most popular strands on the channel here on West Country Wanderings, and we actually got up to part 24 this month because we got to looking at, this time, a section of the Midland and South Western Junction Railway, which actually incidentally doesn't lie that far away from me here in the town of Marlborough, which is only about 6 miles away here from Aldbourne. This time we were looking at the section between the Wiltshire town of Cricklade up to the Gloucestershire village of South Cerney, which lies in the Cotswold Water Park. Lots to see on that, including the remains of a bridge over the River Thames and 4 incredible viaducts. Now, on that video, I think I had comment of the month, if not the year, from Faith G. Thank you very much for this comment, Faith. And Faith writes, "After watching that video, I'm currently being fanned by my maidservant, and smelling salts have been administered. 4 viaducts and a railcar have provided far too much excitement." Thank you very much for that, Faith. That's a brilliant comment. Top of the class for that. And Darren from the channel Somerset Man Walking writes on that video, "That looked a lovely walk. Lovely to see the infrastructure that is still in place. In the 1990s, we had a very large contract. Now, Darren used to work for a carpet company, so they would get contracts all over the West Country. And they had a large contract with the Ministry of Defence. And he worked at the facility, laying floors in the RAF base there at South Cerney. And they even fitted out the old control tower there. I think it's still there. I remember the Hercules planes practicing on the airfield, dropping the vehicles into the cages. Also, I can remember in one of the buildings, the barrack warden showing us an old and original map, presumably from the Second World War, with the push sticks, what they used to move models of squadrons around whilst they were planning their attacks and defences. That's a cracking comment there, Darren. I can just conjure the image of that just watching those Second World War films. And when you had the members of the WAF pushing them around there in those dark days of the Second World War. Thanks for your remembrance on that one. That's brilliant. I've just walked up a little bit away from the centre of the village to be a little bit quieter there. There's some builders working around. That's always the way when you're filming. And talking of filming, something famous was filmed here back in the early part of the 1970s. You're probably already ahead of me. I'll tell you about that in a bit. There was, for about 150 years though, a foundry here, that cast church bells. Many of the parish churches in this part of Wiltshire, also extending into Oxfordshire and neighbouring Berkshire, had bells in the towers, the belfry, that were cast here in Aldbourne, including the church in Newbury in Berkshire, that large town there. I think, is that Vodafone that's based there? I think it is, yeah. But yeah, if you go into the church there in Newbury, have a look at the bells. They were cast right here in this village in Aldbourne. You won't really associate the village with industrial things, but it did have that, and that's one of the reasons I think the population grew. There were mills here at one time as well, because they were using that stream, the aforementioned stream there, chalk stream, because we're on the North Wessex Downs. So yeah, it's a beautiful area. Lots of famous people have come from Aldbourne. One of them was a gentleman I'm almost certain that you've heard of. Well, not if you're one of my younger viewers. I don't have many younger viewers. If you are though, you're most welcome here on West Country Wanderings. But I'm sure many of you will remember a gentleman called Johnny Morris, who had big connections to BBC Bristol. He used to work on BBC Radio Bristol, and of course with the wildlife natural history unit there in Bristol. I think it's still there. It's moved to a different location now. The Natural History Centre there. And in his teens, he worked on a farm here, right here in Aldbourne. And later on, I believe he retired here, or he certainly returned here in his later days as his media career was retiring out of that. But amazing guy, Johnny Morris. And he got a lot of people interested in nature and animals in the early days, long before Chris Packham. Yeah, so amazing, Johnny Morris, connections here to Aldbourne. Many more, and I'll tell you about those after the next video. Now, I know that many of you subscribe to West Country Wanderings for news about the Cotswold Canals Trust and the restoration of both the Stroudwater Canal and the Thames and Severn Canal. And recently there was some very exciting news that was announced to do with National Lottery funding. Yes, some £6.43 million, I believe, has been awarded to the project for the missing mile to connect the Stroudwater Canal back up to the canal network at Saul Junction, where it meets the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal. That's really exciting to hear that. And it means that potentially the canal and the Thames and Severn Canal beyond Stroud, goes on to Thrupp, almost to Brimscombe, it's been restored now, can connect up to the canal network again. Their date for doing that is 2029, which is a very significant date because that will be 250 years, the 250th anniversary since the Stroudwater Canal, the fourth variant thereof, because there are three earlier ones as I mentioned in the video, is going to go ahead. So yeah, 2029, so that's not far away at all. So we're looking at the next 3 or 4 years, lots of things. Well, we've almost come to the end of this year, haven't we? So it's potentially over the next 2 to 3 years, that'll be happening. And I will certainly be showing progress of that here on my channel. I did a little update, 18A video on that to show you what's been happening. And also the new section at Froomebridge there, where they built the new towpath and all the new nature features, including that bird high. That was great to see there as well. And I'll return to that in early spring next year to do a fuller update of all the other news. They're replacing a bridge at Bonds Mill between Easington and Stonehouse at the moment, and so I'll be showing you that and showing you the news of that as that goes in. I've been going down there and taking photographs of that one, and there's lots of other things that have been happening in and around the Cotswold Canals. Had a great comment on that from Lee, who runs a channel called HVEE4, and he does lots of drone shots. If you want to look at some drone shots of the Cotswold Canals, have a look over at Lee's channel there. Lee writes, "It is indeed exciting times for the restoration of the Stroudwater navigation. Hopefully the target of 2029 will be hit." as I say, 250 years anniversary. And the canal finally gets connected back to the network. There's almost so much going on, it's really hard to keep up. Yeah, I know the feeling, Lee. I'm trying to keep track of all the news, what's been happening down at John Robinson Lock, and also what's been happening on the neighbouring sister canal, as I call it, the Wiltshire Barks. More on that in a bit. The next few years are going to be really exciting to see. Yeah, so I think I'm going to be quite busy on the canals over the next couple of years, bringing you all the restoration on that. So yeah, thanks very much for that, Lee, and thanks very much if you watched that video. Now, on the subject of which, another canal series video landed a couple of days later, and that one was entitled Secrets of the Thames and Severn Canal, number 9, and it was strangely titled Bourne, with an E in brackets, and I explained in the video why that little E is in brackets. But it was all to do with the boat builders there, the Thames and Severn's own boat builders at a place called Bourne, which is just outside Brimpscombe, where they had their huge transshipment point, and also where the Cotswold Canals Trust have their brilliant second-hand bookshop. Always worth checking that one out. The reason it was called Bourne with an E, because the place is called Bourne with an E, but for some strange reason the Thames and Severn Canal proprietors with their boatyard called it Bourne without the E. Yeah, I don't really know why, but that's why the variant in the spelling of that. And a great comment on that from a gentleman called Stephen, and runs, I think, possibly a channel called JEHU6846. Thanks for another interesting video, Paul. I've been fascinated by the Thames and Severn Canal for many, many years, ever since we did a project on it at school. I remember we had a day trip starting at Ewan and finishing on the Daneway with lunch at the Tunnel House, so the teachers could have a pint. I was lovely that. I quite often visit Brimpscombe to use the Canal Trust's brilliant second-hand bookshop. A fascinating corner of the world, yes indeed, and I'm very, very fortunate to live nearby in Stroud, so I can capture all these things, and it's great to see that. Obviously, Brimpscombe Port is a bit of an eyesore itself at the moment. Do hope it will be able to restore. That's not part of the Cotswold Canals Connected project to get it connected to the network. That will be the next phase. So yeah, I'll be bringing news of that on the channel, of course. And the other thing to mention on your comment there, Steve, is that the Tunnel House, which has been closed since the pandemic around 2019, 2020, is due to reopen again next year, next spring, I do believe. It's going to be looked after by the owners of the Bell in Sapperton, nearby Sapperton there, and they're going to be managing it. So that'll be great, and I'm sure that'll be a very, very popular place for people to have a drink and a wander along the canal there on the Thames and Severn. Thanks for that. Before I tell you some more about this lovely village of Aldbourne here in Wiltshire, there's some channel news. Yes, first of all, the news is to do with Facebook. Just to let you know, in case you're not aware, I run a separate Facebook group called West Country Wanderings, which has been going now, I think, about 3 years, something like that, and it's grown quite steadily with now about 515 members on there. And there may be a good reason why you may want to consider looking at that if you're on Facebook at all. Not everybody's on Facebook. I'm not saying you have to be on Facebook, but if you are on Facebook and you are interested on the channel and news about canals and railways and walking in the wider West Country and heritage and coast and beaches and all the sort of things I cover here on YouTube, then it might be worth considering doing it, because I sometimes do little behind the scenes snippets in terms of photographs, give you hints about what's coming up on the channel. But not only that, it's also about you, my viewers, because if you're a member of that Facebook group, you can share your own images of anywhere in the wider West Country, from the tip of Cornwall, down at Land's End, right up to northern Worcestershire, across to Herefordshire, down to Dorset, and all points in between Bristol, Bath and Baines and Wiltshire. Well, I listed it all. You get the idea. So anywhere in there, if you've been on holiday, or if you live in the wider West Country region that I cover here on YouTube, you're welcome to put clips in there. Not only that though, if you've done a walk that you've really enjoyed in the area that I cover, why not tell others about it? Just drop it in there. Say you've done a walk somewhere in Somerset, for example, on Exmoor, or on the Quantocks, Blackdown Hills, Dartmoor, and got some photos as well to accompany that, then please do that. And also, if you've got reviews of your favourite cafe or restaurant or pub, you've had a great meal anywhere in the area I cover, love to hear from you on that as well, because other people would do as well and put a review, and I can put a link to their website as well. So yeah, love to hear from you on there. Welcome to join it. As I say, it's called exactly the same as the name of the YouTube channel, so it's West Country. That's all one word, and new word, Wanderings. Put that into Facebook and request to join, I'll invite you in, and then you can share and upload your own photos and images, and you can say you can review places and do walks and yeah, all that kind of stuff. So it's a nice little community on there now. It's really, really built up, and people talk to each other on there as well. So yeah, it's great. Sometimes it may take me a little while to come back to you, to respond a day or two, because obviously when I'm out filming, I can't be on Facebook, for example, or I'm driving, I'm on a train somewhere. So yeah, just bear that in mind. But I will get back to you. It's like with my comments as well on the channel. If you leave a comment, I will always reply. It may take me 2 or 3 days to reply to that comment, but I endeavour to reply to all the comments, unless there's any particularly abusive ones. I'm very, very lucky, actually. Very, very rarely do I get an abusive comment which I have to delete. That's probably happened less than 5 or 6 times in best getting on for 5 years now. So very, very fortunate with that. And got a really, really lovely bunch of people that watch this channel. I feel very, very fortunate. So thank you for that, and thank you for your excellent comments, without which, of course, there would be no monthly blog and no sense of community here on West Country Wandering. So I do really, really appreciate it. The other thing to do with channel news is, if particularly you are a new subscriber, new viewer here to West Country Wanderings, you may not be aware of my back catalogue of videos. So what YouTube tends to do, it tends to promote, generally, not always, but generally, the newer videos. Now, at this time of the year, because we've got shorter days, I only tend to cover the counties that are local to me, mainly Wiltshire, Bristol and Bath, and also Herefordshire, Worcestershire and Gloucestershire, where I live, and South Gloucestershire. I don't tend to go into Devon and Cornwall and the southern part of Somerset or Dorset, because there just isn't enough daylight to film that when you add in the travelling time. Of course, the weather isn't so good with it being icy and rainy sort of thing. So yeah, but I have done loads in Devon and Cornwall, for example. I think off the top of my head, I think I've done getting on for 90 videos in Devon and about 60 or 70 in Cornwall alone, as well as quite a few in Dorset and quite a few in Somerset as well. Now, if you want to look at those, if you're particularly interested in Cornwall, for example, I do have curated playlists. So you will find a playlist, have a look down, you'll see a playlist there just for Cornwall, and you'll find all of my videos on Cornwall grouped together there. So then you'll find all of them that I've done over the best part of 5 years. I've done now getting on for 700 videos in total. I can't believe I've done 700 videos, but yeah, it's something like that. So yeah, so if I have a look at that, there's also, as well as ones for all the counties, there's one for Herefordshire, there's one for Bath and Baines, one for Bristol. They've all been divided up, so you'll find something there, a particular part that you're interested in, for example. There's also a separate ones for railways and another separate one for canals, and yeah, so you should be able to find something of interest there in the back catalogue if you aren't so much interested in ones that are on the area I'm filming at the moment, because we're in winter mode. As we get into springtime, I'll be able to widen my wings a bit and go back into Devon and Cornwall again and other places as well. But this is a beautiful village here. There's no taking away. That's absolutely stunning, stunning place. Really, really great. I've now come round to the Church of St Michael's here in Aldbourne, which is a really, really interesting church. Originally it was Norman. A lot of it dates to the 12th century, but the tower, amazing 3-storey tower, was added in 1460. I believe the south doorway dates from the 12th century as well, although there were later additions with the Victorians, what they tended to do, of course, in the 19th century. But it's a beautiful church on a high bit of land above the square here, overlooking the central heart of this, as I say, quite large village here in Wiltshire. It's got a really quite big churchyard here. I just went on the bridleway at the back of the church. That's where I was filming earlier, and I've now just come back into the heart of the village to tell you a little bit more about this amazing village here in Wiltshire. But yeah, it's a fantastic church, really beautiful. Before I read out the comment on the next video that landed on the channel this month, just to tell you about what's going to be coming up in the month of December here on West Country Wanderings. Well, it's all about Christmas. As you know, Christmas is a big part of the channel here. It's been a bit of a seasonal favourite. I've got one I filmed in the city of Gloucester, well, I think it was about a week ago now, when they had an amazing lantern parade and the light switch on there. So hope to bring you that soon. I'm going to be filming in a town in the Three Counties. It's a Severn-side town. That there's a bit of a clue there. So they've got their Christmas lights. The first time they've ever done that. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know the BBC are going to be there for that event. So I think that's going to be really quite special. Fingers crossed that'll happen. That'll be landing on the channel. I also hope to be bringing you some short bites as well. So it won't be all about Christmas. I know not everybody loves Christmas. I do like the atmosphere, the build up to it, I must admit, and I like all the lights, that sort of thing. Photogenically, it looks really good on camera, but there'll be other things if we don't particularly like Christmas. There'll also be some steam trains, which will probably be one of the Santa events, probably GWSR or Severn Valley Railway or something like that. And I do hope to bring a video out on Christmas Day. Don't know what it's going to be yet, so I hope to film that over the next few days and put that out Christmas Day. That was the first time I ever did that last year, put a video out on Christmas Day. I thought, shall I do it or not? Everybody's going to be watching like the Queen's speech and Christmas pudding and family around playing, I don't know, Cluedo, Monopoly and arguing over that sort of thing. No one's going to watch a video. Well, last Christmas Day, video I put out then was at Gotherington on the Gloucester and Warwickshire Steam Railway. It was incredible amount of views. I couldn't believe how many views I got on that for my little channel. It was phenomenal. So yeah, I'll definitely be putting a video out on Christmas Day. So don't know how long it'll be, whether it's a short bite, a longer one. Not sure what it's going to be yet, but look out for that. And I do hope to do another Cotswold walk before we get to the end of the year as well. And there'll also be a monthly vlog in December as well, which will be kind of a recap, highlights of the year, as well as what's been happening during December, of which I don't know what's happening yet. But yes, definitely Christmas and definitely some short bites and some railway stuff in there as well. So you can join me for that. And as I say, as we get into New Year, I'll be spreading my wings across the wider West Country Wanderings region again. Now, the next video that landed was actually a Cotswold walk, and it was to the town of Nailsworth in Gloucestershire, not a million miles away from here. It was only a few miles away from where I live, actually, and I did it on a Sunday morning. I've been wanting to do Nailsworth for some time. The trouble is with it, like Aldbourne here, because it's on a road, roads these days get very busy and congested, so I decided to film it early on a Sunday morning. In actual fact, it was a poignant morning because it was Remembrance Sunday. I had a great comment on that video from Diana. It was great to hear from you, Diana. I watched this twice. So much to take in and enjoy. It's an area of the Cotswolds that I've never visited, and I especially enjoyed the walk through the valley with the fish farm and the college grounds. It must be difficult to farm on such steep slopes. Yes, I definitely would imagine it would be, Diana. Everywhere you went, there were picturesque views, and you ended by walking past a house, simply but aptly decorated with poppies hanging in the windows and on top of the wall and the gate. Very moving and very effective. Thanks very much. Glad you noticed that. Now, I actually filmed that closing piece for that video 4 or 5 times. I couldn't get it right because there were people in the way, and I didn't spot that. It's actually a care home there in Nailsworth. I didn't spot that till the very end. I was thinking I was getting despairing because there was people in the way, there was noisy traffic, because by that time I'd finished the walk. The town was livening up. So I was getting a little bit frustrated where I was doing, and then I spotted the care home and I thought, well, I wonder if I can walk past the care home and time it. So just as I'm saying goodbye, that's the closing bit of the video, as it's Remembrance Sunday, seeing the poppies. And as it turned out, it came together. Just one of those things you can't predict, and it did come together. Thanks for noticing that. And thanks if any of you watched that video, and it seemed to go down really well as one of my Cotswold walks. And as I say, hopefully there'll be another one in the month of December. Earlier on this vlog, I mentioned that one of the famous people that came from this village here in Wiltshire was Johnny Morris, the naturalist who said had connections with BBC Radio Bristol. The other amazing thing, though, is that people that come from this village, now if you come from, say, for example, Cheltenham, you'll be known as Cheltonians, Truronians for Truro, just to give you a couple of examples. Here, if you come from this village of Aldbourne here in Wiltshire, you're known as, wait for this, a dab chick. Yeah, what's all that about? It's something to do with little grebe birds. I'm not sure if that's got a connection. There is, in the square here, a village pond, and whether at one time they had little grebes on them, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, if you come from this village, you're known as a dab chick. Now, a few other famous people that came from here was the author, Mavis Cheek. Now, she lived here for many, many years, sold loads and loads of books. She was a literary writer, but yeah, she lived here. Very, very famous. And also there was a Polish Jewish painter. He was called Janko Adler, and he lived right in the centre of the village here. And also the composer David Gow came from this amazing village. Now, railways are always popular on my channel. They're kind of divided up into different types. The ones we're looking at heritage lines, ones we're doing lost railway walks, or the recent railway discoveries ones. I've done ones on Devon and Cornwall, and there's a new railway discoveries which just actually arrived last night, more about which in a bit. But occasionally I focus on specific railway stations. I've previously focused on Westbury and also the station in Gloucester. And not far from Gloucester is another cathedral city, and that is the city of Worcester, which has two railway stations and another one just outside of it at Worcestershire Parkway, which is a fairly new one. But there is an amazing station in Worcester Shrub Hill, and I did that. I thought, well, what can I do? The weather had been fairly gloomy and I didn't want to drive too far. I thought, well, I can jump on a train from where I live in the Stroud Valleys straight through to Worcester Shrub Hill and do a couple of videos in the city there. I did another one more about that as well. Looking at Worcester Shrub Hill station, not only its history and how it was built and the station itself, which has been recently restored, but also the buildings that surround it, including the LMS goods shed and a lot of the railway engineering workshops. I had a great comment on that video from Andrew Merriman, who used to be, I believe, a signaller in Wales. And he writes, at 9:20, that's the time indicator in the video, where you were, the semaphore signals, the one on the right is, I understand, the last remaining signal with a mechanical route indicator left on the entire network. Yeah, incredible. I did include it in action at the very end. If you stay to the very end, you'll see that actually working there. When the signalman pulls the appropriate lever, the signal alarm drops with the route indicator reading either H Ford for Hereford, or B Ham for Birmingham, because the route splits there. So it comes in from kind of the Gloucester direction and the Cotswold line direction, one end of the station, and then at the other end of the station it splits going north towards Droitwich, Birmingham, or left towards Malverns and Hereford. So yeah, it says Beham or Hereford. Apparently, well, not apparently, it is the only surviving one with that indicator on it. Andrew goes on to write, there used to be another one at Yeovil Pen Mill station, but that was taken out a few years ago, and also Dovey Junction in the middle of Wales there. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Andrew. That's a brilliant comment. And yeah, lots of people watched that video, but not only Andrew's comment, really detailed looking at the signals there, but I had another great comment on that video from a gentleman called Tim Jones. Travelling from Moreton in Marsh in Gloucestershire, that's on the Cotswold line, to Wolverhampton Low Level Station, no longer there. The present day Wolverhampton Station is High Level. Low Level was the GWR one, which went on down to Penzance. With my mum at 7 years old in 1957, I had my hand trapped in a carriage door. Ouch! Ooh, painful, Tim. The guard was walking along the platform slamming doors. Closed it and he trapped my right hand. Did I ever? Yeah, I bet you did. I was kept in overnight at Worcester Royal Infirmary. I was x-rayed, plastered, and my splintered and arm put in a sling. Back at the station, ready to continue on our journey to Wolverhampton. I was recognised by the station master. He took me on a tour of the offices. He gave me some timetables and a GWR desk calendar. That's a brilliant comment. Oh yes, I can just imagine how painful that was, because not that long ago I trapped my hand in my car boot. So yeah, I just know how I had mine x-rayed as well and all that stuff, but thankfully it's all healed now. But yeah, it's very painful at the time, isn't it? Very, very painful. But that's a brilliant memory there. Thank you very much for that, Tim. I've not been the only person that's filmed in this village. Well, I can imagine in the summer lots of people come here doing photography and clips for TikTok and YouTube, because it's a beautiful, beautiful village. But way back, some 50 years ago, the BBC came here to make an episode of Doctor Who. I think it was a series of episodes, Doctor Who. So we're talking about the John Pertwee days, and that episode or strand. Now, I'm not sure the pronunciation of this, so if you're a Doctor Who, Whovians they're called, aren't they? Aficionado, you'll know this. I'm not sure if it's called the Demons or the Damons, because it's Demons spelt with an A, so yes. But I do seem to remember, the back of my mind, watching a bit of this. Now, when I came into the village here, it did, and I'd never been here before, but it did strike a chord for me. I'm thinking, this looks vaguely familiar, even though I know I haven't been here. And that's, I'm sure, because I'm certain I watched that episode, or series of episodes. It was filmed partially in the Globe Inn. Now, outside the Globe Inn, they have, yes, wait for this, a TARDIS, which was built a few years ago, I think by possibly the landlord, which is now kind of a cigarette butt bin, yeah, which is because it's outside in like the waiting shelter area outside the pub there. But yeah, a Dalek outside here. John Pertwee. See if I can find a couple of photos of that with him filming here in the village. I think it was a really quite a spooky episode. They were actually, although it was low budget in terms of special effects, the storylines were really, really good. And I do seem to remember that was quite a creepy, one of those hiding behind the settee episodes, I think. And I'm not sure if it was the Daleks or the Cybermen, but yeah, you'll know if you're a Doctor Who fan, all about filming here in Aldbourne here in Wiltshire. But yeah, Doctor Who. Yeah, so it's also been filmed with, I think it was the Vodafone filmed here. But obviously they're not based far away, they're just over the border in Berkshire at Newbury. But yeah, they filmed here. It was one of their Christmas videos about 6 or 7 years ago, and a few other episodes. There was a Channel 4 series filmed here as well, because it is just one of those places that just kind of lends itself to that, because it is a very quintessentially English village here in Wiltshire. Now here on the channel I like to do new concepts from time to time, and well, this has been tried and tested by lots of other YouTubers, doing like a top 10 of this, top 10 best or top 10 worst, that sort of thing. And I thought I'd try it, but it wasn't really a top 10 in terms of it wasn't ranked in order, but it was a top 10, or 10 should I say, listed buildings in the city of Worcester. So I filmed it obviously on the same day I did the Shrub Hill one, and it seemed to be really, really well received. Now Worcester, well, you've got loads to choose from basically, and I decided not to go for the other one, so that I didn't include the Guildhall and I didn't include the Cathedral and a few other places that are obvious, but went for the less obvious ones, and I tried to do them so they were different. So some were from the 19th century, some were back going to the 1500s, and I had a great comment on that from Daryl. Architectural masterpieces, some are hundreds of years old and they still stand proud. A definitive tribute to the architects and the craftsmen who built them. Yeah, that's absolutely spot on, Darren. Thanks very much for that. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I really enjoyed my day there in the city of Worcester, because there is just so much variation that you've got in terms of building styles, although a lot of it was kind of knocked about within the 50s and 60s with the town city planners that you had then, but thankfully still survives. Highly recommend a trip there if you've never ever been to Worcester. I then looked at the Cotswold Canal's sister canal, which is the Wilts and Berks Canal. That's another canal that we're following here on West Country Wanderings, looking at the restoration thereof. And recently I saw a Facebook post from them looking at a section of towpath which has recently opened to the public. It's actually been closed since the canal closed on that section, should I say, since 1899. Yeah, you heard that right. So you've not actually officially been able to walk on it since then. It's been cleared by volunteers of the Cotswold Canals Trust and also the Wessex Waterways Restoration Trust, because they look after a section in that area of Dauncey, also here in Wiltshire. great comment on that from Ron, who runs a wonderful channel called Parkinson's Walks. And at this point, I'd like to give out a big shout out to Ron, because Ron was one of 3 or 4 people that inspired me to start West Country Wanderings in the very first place. He's been going now on YouTube for about 9, possibly going up to 10 years. And similar to me, he does explores of lost railways, and he's done canals as well. I know he's done sections of the Cotswold canals, and he's done walking the Cotswolds as well. So if you like my content and you've never come across Ron's channel before, he's got a whole wealth of back catalogue of really excellent videos, mainly centred again around the 3 counties of Gloucestershire, Herefordshire and Worcestershire, but he also dips down into Cornwall as well. So have a look out for Ron's, and thank you, Ron, very much. I do appreciate for inspiring me to starting my channel in the very first place. Anyway, he writes on that video, with all the restoration on the canals, we may be approaching another golden age for canals. I actually agree with that. I think that's a brilliant comment, Alan. Thank you very much for that. So much going on with all the restoration with Wiltshire Barks and also with the Cotswold canals, and it'd be great to see them all connected up again, although it will take time for it to be done. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant comment. Thanks for that. Then there was a brand new video, a brand new series indeed, and it's entitled, it's a bit of a lengthy one, this, Railway Discoveries in Herefordshire and Worcestershire Part 1, and then semicolon or colon, whichever one you prefer, Hereford, Ross and Gloucester Railway, also Part 1. So there'll be a Part 2 of both of them. So yeah, so obviously the Part 2 of the railway one will be inside that one, but the next one in that series may be somewhere else in the 2 counties. That only has just gone out last night, so it's early days with that. We've already had the comments have been coming through, and a great comment from Marilyn Balderstone on that one. I didn't know about Backney Bridge, and we certainly missed that on our wanderings years ago. So I think Marilyn lives in the Cheshire area, sort of north of the area that I cover, but she likes travelling on railways all the time, so she's still travels about, doesn't do quite so much walking now, but still explores using the railways, which is always a great thing. So brilliant. Carry on doing that, Marilyn. And yeah, so she explored that old line between Gloucester, the 2 cathedral cities of Gloucester and Hereford, the brilliant rail line that once connected those 2 places. And it's just surprising what's left after 6 years. I hope you went in the lovely garden centre in brackets engine shed for a coffee and scone. They don't make scones like that up here in Cheshire. Oh, brilliant. That's a great comment there, Marilyn. Well, unfortunately, I didn't on that occasion. I have been there before, but I haven't partaked any of their excellent scones. So yeah, I'll do that next time, because we will return to Ross and Wye, because I didn't cover everything that there is of remains of that railway yet. So I will be back in Ross. There is a section that's walkable. The whole purpose of the Discovery series, if you haven't seen that video yet, is because, unlike my Lost Railway Walks, where I walk from A to B, a section of the old line, it's looking at aspects, because there is no right of way along virtually any of that old railway line, but there are viaducts, tunnels, bridges, stations that have been restored that were closed that were on the line. So we'll be looking at some more of that, and other railways in the counties of Herefordshire and Worcestershire. I'm hoping to do the Golden Valley. That's not the one that goes through the Stroud Valley in that way, but there's one that heads over in West Herefordshire to the Welsh town of Hay-on-Wye, also the line between Worcester and Leominster, and many others besides. So be looking out for that, and that will series continue, in addition of course to the Lost Railway Walks. That's not ending, that will continue as well as we get into the new year. At this point, I'd like to thank all of you. If you've watched any of my videos for the month of November, if you've liked them, if you are a new subscriber to West Country Wanderings, welcome to the channel. And I say, don't forget what I said about having a look at my back catalogue as well, because if you've just joined and just watched a video that interests you, you may not be aware of all the other videos that I've done, say coming up to 700 videos now. And particularly if you've commented any of my videos this month, hopefully I've read one of them out, but I can't obviously read all of them out. I've had some excellent comments this month, as I do every month, so thank you very much for your comments. That's it for today here on West Country Wanderings on the monthly vlog for the month of November. There will be more content coming up in December, and there'll also be a monthly vlog then as well. Thanks for that. That's all from here, from the beautiful village of Aldbourne in the wonderful county of Wiltshire. Take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and hope to see you on the channel again very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Bye-bye.